Imagine someone hands you $100. Right now. No strings attached. Feel that for a second. There's a warmth to it, a quiet satisfaction, maybe a small smile. Now, imagine someone reaches into your pocket and takes $100 away from you. Same amount, same number. But that feeling is not quiet. That feeling is sharp. It lingers. It makes you want to do something about it. And here is the strange part. Both things happen to the same brain. Both involved the same sum of money. But they didn't feel anything like the same. That gap is not a personality quirk. It is not weakness or irrationality. It is one of the most deeply wired features of the human mind. And once you understand why it exists, you will never look at a financial decision the same way again. In 1979, two psychologists named Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky published a paper that would eventually win a Nobel Prize. They called their theory prospect theory, and what they found was both elegant and unsettling. Human beings do not evaluate outcomes based on their absolute value. They evaluate outcomes based on how far those outcomes deviate from a reference point. Usually, whatever they already have. A gain is measured against what you started with. A loss is measured against what you started with. And the pain of losing something is roughly twice as powerful as the pleasure of gaining the same thing. Twice. Not slightly more. Not a little worse. Twice as intense. Kahneman called this loss aversion. And it is not a bias in the sense of a mistake your brain makes. It is a feature your brain evolved to keep you alive. But it was built for a world that looks nothing like the one you are navigating today. Go back far enough. Before banks, before coins, before any concept of money at all. Your ancestors lived in a world of genuine scarcity. Resources were not abstract numbers on a screen. They were calories. They were shelter. They were warmth in winter. Losing resources was not an inconvenience. It was a step toward death. The brain that treated losses as emergencies survived longer than the brain that shrugged. The brain that fought hard to hold on to what it had passed on its genes. And you inherited that brain. But now that same brain is sitting in front of a stock portfolio. It is looking at a menu and calculating whether the expensive item is worth it. It is checking a bank balance at midnight. And it is treating every small financial loss like a step toward starvation. Because on a deep neurological level, it is. Here is what actually happens inside your head when you lose money. Your amygdala, the brain's threat detection center, fires. The same structure that would have activated at the sight of a predator on the savannah activates when your investment drops 2%. Cortisol floods your system. Your thinking narrows. Your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for long-term reasoning, goes partially offline. You become, in a very measurable neurological sense, less rational exactly when you most need to be rational. Winning money does not do this in reverse. When you gain money, your brain releases dopamine. That feels good. But the dopamine signal is modest and brief. It fades fast. The cortisol signal from a loss is louder, longer, and harder to ignore. Your brain is not running a fair accounting system. It is running a survival system. And survival systems are not designed for fairness. They are designed to make you afraid of losing what you have. Researchers at the California Institute of Technology, including Ming Su and Colin Kammerer, used brain imaging to watch this process in real time. When subjects faced potential losses, activity in the amygdala and the insula, a brain region associated with visceral discomfort and disgust, spiked sharply. When they faced equivalent gains, those regions stayed relatively quiet. The brain is literally running a different program for losses than it runs for gains. And the loss program is louder. This is why selling a losing stock feels almost physically painful. It is why people hold on to bad investments long past the point of logic, waiting for the price to come back so they do not have to lock in the loss. It is why someone who just lost $200 gambling will often bet more, not less, to try to get back to zero. The brain does not want to accept the loss as real. It wants to undo it. It treats the loss as an open wound that needs to be closed. Richard Thaler, a behavioral economist at the University of Chicago and another Nobel laureate, spent decades documenting the consequences of this wiring. One of his key findings was something he called the endowment effect. Once you own something, you immediately value it more than you would if you did not own it. In one famous experiment, subjects were given a coffee mug and then asked how much they would sell it for. Others who did not have a mug were asked how much they would pay to buy one. The sellers consistently demanded roughly twice what the buyers were willing to pay. Same mug, same room, different relationship to ownership. Because ownership activates the loss aversion system. Now losing the mug is a loss, and losses hurt twice as much as gains feel good. Think about the last time you negotiated something, a salary, a price on a car, a bill you were disputing. The way the conversation was framed almost certainly affected how you felt. If someone presented a price reduction as a discount you were gaining, it felt different than being told about a fee you would avoid. Same dollars, completely different emotional weight. Because your brain is not calculating value, it is calculating distance from loss. This asymmetry shapes almost every financial decision you make. You keep a gym membership you never use because canceling it feels like admitting a loss. You avoid switching banks even when a better option exists because the friction feels like risk. You hold on to a house in a down market longer than makes financial sense because selling below what you paid feels like losing, even when the rational move is to cut and move forward. Shlomo Benartzi, a behavioral economist at UCLA, applied these insights to retirement savings and found something striking. When employers automatically enrolled workers in pension plans and framed contributions as the default, opting out felt like a loss. Suddenly, participation rates jumped dramatically. Nothing about the money changed. The framing changed. And framing is almost everything to a brain wired for loss aversion. The hardest part of all this is that knowing about it does not make it go away. Kahneman himself, who spent his career studying these biases, admitted that understanding them does not immunize you against them. You can know with your prefrontal cortex that a 2% portfolio drop is noise. You can know that holding a losing position is irrational. You can know that the pain you feel is an ancient threat response, misfiring in a modern financial system. And your amygdala will not care. It will fire anyway. It will make that loss feel like danger, because for 200,000 years it was. What you can do is build systems that account for this. Automate decisions, so your emotional brain is not in the room when the choice is made. Set rules in advance, when you are calm, for what you will do when markets drop or when a trade goes wrong. Reframe losses not as failures, but as the cost of operating in a system where risk and reward are permanently linked. Because your brain will never stop treating losses as threats. But you can stop letting those threats make your decisions for you. Someone hands you $100, and then it is gone. The numbers are identical. The feeling never was. And now you know exactly why. Because the brain keeping score inside your chest was never counting dollars. It was counting survival. It still is. Every single time you check your balance and feel that quiet dread, your ancestors are still with you, still watching the horizon, still making sure you do not lose what you cannot afford to lose, even when the thing you are losing is nothing more than a number on a screen.